Welcome to the Great Learning Corporate Academy live webinar on business lessons from Panchtantra. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Manoj Barthwal. He is one of the most prominent HR leaders in the country with over 35 years of work experience. Currently, he is the Executive Director and Head of ONGC Academy, one of the most prestigious public sector learning institutions in South Asia. Over the years, he has led several large multidisciplinary teams. He has strong board and management experience. He has expertise in aligning HR strategies with business vision and leading transformational training in rapidly changing environment. His business contributions have been recognized and awarded several times. In 1995, he was awarded the Young Executive of the Year by ONGC. Very recently, he was awarded the Industry Academia Leadership by Amity University. In today's webinar, we'd like to put the spotlight on how businesses can be sustainable and focus inward to explore how they can help society and humanity tide over the crisis that we are in today. So I'd like Mr. Manoj to begin with his talk. Sir, please go ahead. It is a pleasure to have you and do this session for us. Please go ahead, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session on revisiting business purpose. I'm Manoj Barthwal, and Gaurav has already introduced me, but maybe a little bit more. Well, my father was working in the government, and with him, he used to get transferred very, very often. So I used to go with him wherever he was transferred, and get admitted in the whichever schools were available. After we shifted to Lucknow, I joined Lucknow University and I did my MA in history. And after that, I became a journalist. I started working for All India Radio and Television, and I used to make live TV programs like I'm doing right now. Then ONGC selected me and sent me to Assam, where I worked for 3 years. I can speak fluent Assamese. Then I went to Gujarat. I picked up a little bit of Gujarati, came back to Dehradun. From here, I went to Mumbai and looked after many of the areas that ONGC is working on. Mumbai happens to be the hub of ONGC's activities as far as production is concerned. We have offshore operations. So I was handling industrial relations. I was handling offshore contracts and things like that. After that, I came to Delhi and I headed ONGC's Delhi office for about 4 years, where I had interaction with several ministries and conducted several programs. And after that, I chose to come to Dehradun and requested my executive committee that as I enter the remaining period of my service, I would like to contribute to academics, because most of the time I've been a line manager, and my board agreed and posted me to Dehradun. So that's how it is. Now, I've learned a little bit of classical music, and I play golf and I play tennis. I have a wife. I have 2 sons who are computer engineers. They're working in Paris. So that's about me. I've been a Sanskrit scholar. Sanskrit was one of my languages, one of my papers in graduation. And I heard a couple of seminars and a couple of webinars, and many prominent people speaking on a host of issues as we are facing this lockdown. Most of the people have been talking about how economy is going to fare, how we are going to come back, what should be our strategy to come back and put economy back on the track. But it set me thinking during these 2 months that we have to address the fundamental issues. And the fundamental issues are, what is the basic purpose of a business enterprise? Most of us have realized during this lockdown period that we can live with a little bit of money. There is a difference between life and lifestyle. So all of you would realize that a lot of money goes into maintaining the lifestyle, which is a little bit away from life. So it set me thinking that we must look at our roots. We must question some of the basic premises on which the business enterprises are built. And I thought that why not turn to Panchtantra Panchtantra is one of the oldest Sanskrit treatises on learning, which I'll tell you a little bit about a little later. But coming back to the purpose of the business enterprise, and I would like to tell you a story. There was a MBA student who went to Japan and met one of the prominent business leaders in Japan, something like Akio Morita, and asked that septuagenarian as to what in his mind and what in his opinion is the purpose of a business enterprise. And that gentleman, elderly gentleman, said that I take the purpose of my business enterprise from your country. And he said, how? He thought he'll say something about profit, something about growing the business, multiplier effect of economy, and things like that. But that gentleman recited a Sanskrit shlok, and it goes like this. It's not from Panchtantra. I'll come to Panchtantra a little later, but it says, Natwaham kamaye rajyam, naswargam na punarbhavam, kamaye dukkha taptanam, praninam arthanashanam. I do not aspire for any kingdom. I do not aspire for heaven. I do not aspire for rebirth. The purpose of my life and my business enterprise is to alleviate the sufferings of the people. And he says, how is that possible? And the gentleman said, see, when I built a business enterprise, I generate employment. That employment gets succor, that employment gives livelihood to so many people. And then wherever we are operating, it has a multiplier effect. In whichever city I operate, there are a lot of peripheral activities that go on. So the purpose of my business enterprise is to alleviate the sufferings of the people. When I get a profit, I roll it back into the business enterprise, expand business. So I do not look at profit as the primary motive of my business, but to alleviate the sufferings of the people. And that's a great lesson which we must look at. The fundamental question, therefore, is how much profit to generate, how much to plow back into the business enterprise, how much to plow back into making the systems more robust, how much profit to keep for yourself, how much salary to give to employees. And that's the basic ethical question before every business enterprise. If you are only driven by the profit motive, if you are only driven by the greed to have more and more, then the basic benchmark, basic services can be sold at X amount or X plus N amount or whatever. So it's for each enterprise to see as to how much profit they want to generate and how much to keep, how much to give, how much to invest in growing the business and generating more employment. There are no yardsticks. So every organization has its own ethical principles. And you might have seen that the best enterprises, the ethical enterprises, will survive. Those who are driven by greed will collapse. I will also quote one more shloka from Raghuvansh Mahakavyam, which is written by Kalidas. This is about the king and the way he collects taxes. It says, Prajanam bhutirthamev satabhyo balim agrahit, sahasra gunan mutsashtum adatte hi rasam ravihit. The king collected taxes for the benefit of the masses, for the benefit of his populace, just as sun extracts vapors from oceans and multiplies it and showers it back on the earth. Similarly, all the business enterprises must also, of course, make profit, but then they have to also see as to how much profit to keep and how much to give back to society. We are talking of open source systems. We are talking of benchmarking your services and your products. It's up to each business enterprise as to how much benchmark should go for the pricing of the product, for the services, and how much profit should be generated. It's up to each one of them. Now, I quote two shlokas from Panchtantra as to what is the purpose of living. And Vishnu Sharma, I'll talk a little bit about later, but let me just often quote two shlokas. He says, Yasmin jivati jivanti bahavah sotra jivatum vayans kim na kurvanti chancha sodar purnam. जिसके जीने से बहुत सारे लोग जीते हैं वही असल में जीता है. The person who gives employment again, or on whom several people are dependent, is a person whose life is worth it. Otherwise, even the birds fill their stomach with their beaks. They live for themselves. There is another one. Jatasya nadi tire tasyapi trinasya janma saphalam. Yet salinamajja na kula jana hastavalammanam bhavati. The purpose of a grass growing by the side of a river is also fulfilled because a person who is dying and drowning can latch onto those, clusters of grass and save himself. So even the life of a trina, cluster of grass, is purposeful, is worth it, because that grass can save the lives of a drowning man. So that's the purpose of living as far as Panchtantra is concerned. So let me come to Panchtantra now, what it is and what it is about. So in a city called Mahila Ropya, there lived a king called Amar Shakti. Amar Shakti had 3 sons. Their names were Bahu Shakti, Ugra Shakti, and Ananta Shakti. And these children were not, up to the mark as far as passing on the baton of the kingdom was concerned. So the king was a little bit worried as to how to teach these children. He came to know that Vishnu Sharma is a person, he's an 80-year-old man who can possibly teach these children some basics of life and some, so how to run the kingdom. So he calls Vishnu Sharma and he asks Vishnu Sharma to teach his sons the purpose of life, the values of life, the values of running the kingdom, etc. So Vishnu Sharma teaches these children through stories of animals. And end of the story or the beginning of the story, there is a shlok filled with lesson of life. And that's why I thought that this is one of the oldest treatises on learning, Panchtantra. Panch means 5, Tantra means portions or adhyayas or khand. And those 5 portions are Mitra Bhed, Mitra Samprapti, Kako Lukiya, Labdha Prakash, and Aparikshit Karak. And in that treatise, Vishnu Sharma also talks about the importance of money. And he says money can be earned by the means of bhiksha, like begging, which used to be, the order of the day during olden times, by Rajseva, by serving the king, by agriculture, education, loans, and trade and business. And he says trade and business are the areas where you can generate more profit, you can have more income. So that's about Panchatantra. So Panchatantra, as I said, is based on stories of animals. And Vishnu Sharma picks up some lessons and tells these children. So I'll tell you one of those stories. And the story goes like this, that there is a monkey, and the monkey is roaming around in a jungle. In that jungle, there is a carpenter who is working on logs of wood. He drives a nail in the wood and leaves the nail partially embedded in the wood. Now this monkey is jumping around and he starts playing around with the nail. And while playing around, his tail goes inside that wedge, and suddenly that nail gives way, and his tail is caught in that wedge, in that wooden boulder. And he's of course, frantic, and he's jumping around and all. And the story is that don't meddle in somebody else's affairs. The carpenter was going about his job. Monkey had no business to be there, but he starts playing around with that nail and ends up putting his tail inside that wedge and starts hurting himself. So the lesson was that don't meddle in somebody else's affairs, means stay concentrated on whatever business you are doing. Ekagra chitta. With all your concentration, focus on whatever you are doing, whether it's studies, whether it is running a business. Put all your heart into your affairs and don't meddle in somebody else's affairs. We come now to another area, and I said how much quantum of profit you should keep, how much you should invest in expanding the business, how much in improving the services, which will ultimately benefit the customers. So the ethical enterprises, again and again, I'm emphasizing on the fact that every business must look at the basic purpose with which it has been created. The businesses should not just run after money. They must be ethical to to take a stock of how much profit to keep and how much better services to give back to society and to customers. That also now takes us to the theory of karma. And I will connect with the COVID situation as to what is happening now. With whatever situation is developed, it's basically because of karma. And on karma, Vishnu Sharma says, Yatha chhaya tapau nityam susambadhau parasparam eva karma cha karta cha sanslishta vitaretaram. Just as shadow and light are always connected with each other, as are our actions and its doer invariably linked to each other. So the shadow follows us in a daylight wherever we go. Similarly, our karmas also take us to whatever we are destined to do. Our karmas will impact on the later life. So coming to the current situation, whether I'll not go into the controversy which is going around in the social media, whether it is man-made or whether it is it generated out of Chinese market and things like that. The point is that it has generated either because of the mishandling of the environment by human beings or by wrong eating practices or whatever. The point is that our karmas will chase us. And our karmas will hit back. I said, if they are not good karmas, they will come back and hit at us. During these two months, if we do not still realize, and if we still talk about generating profit and mindlessly going about our businesses, getting more and more money, then we are back on the same square one. Point is, let's ponder, let's think. If you create plastic, it creates its own problems. Plastic becomes very, very useful at some point of time, but it becomes our demon. And we start handling that demon. You make cell phones, and I'm told that sparrows have been driven away because of the high intensity waves, ultrasound waves, or sound waves of the towers. You make cars, you have carbon footprints. You start using RO water, and RO itself wastes so much of water that you start thinking of conserving water one way or the other. So the point is that our karmas will chase us wherever we are. You generate something which is very, very useful at some point of time, but then it starts hurting you, and then your time and money and efforts go into controlling that, and a lot of money goes into controlling that. So if you are ethical, if you learn to live in sync with nature, if you are ethically driven, if you are constantly conscious of what is the purpose of a business enterprise, then our good karmas will impact on us, and they will always keep us healthy and fine. So much about karmas. Vishnu Sharma also talks of earning and charity, and there are a couple of shlokas devoted to earning and charity, and I'll speak about it in a little while. About charity, he says, Upajita nam arthanam tyag eva hi rakshanam tada godara sansthanam parivaha evambasam. Giving away in charity is the real saving of money. Just as giving escape to the water in a lake is the proper mode of its presentation. Water, as long as it is stagnant in a lake or in a pond, does not serve any purpose. But once it is released and it goes to the fields and starts irrigating, the agricultural products, then that is the real purpose of water. The life of water is fulfilled. Again, Vishnu Sharma says, Datavyam bhoktavyam dhana vishaye sanchayo cha kartavyah pashyeha madhukarinam sanchadamartham harantanye. As regards wealth, it should be given away in charity and also enjoyed, but should not be merely stored up. For if you do not do either of these, either you do not give it in charity or do not use it, it will be frittered away, just as bees make honey and they are taken away by somebody else. So the analogies are just to tell you that, of course, we take away the honey of the bees and we start using it for our own purposes, but the bees are working to generate the money for themselves. Similarly, Vishnu Sharma says that the money must be earned, but money must also be, while earning, should also be given away in charity and should be partly used. Otherwise, it will pass on to somebody else and it will not serve any purpose. Further, he says, Danam bhogo nasha sisro gatayo bhavanti vittasya yo na dadati na bhunkte tasya tritiya gatir bhavati. Charity, enjoyment, and loss. These three are the ways in which money finds its passage. He who neither gives away his wealth nor enjoys it has third cause, that it just passes off. So, wealth, of course, as I said in the beginning, Vishwa Sharma talks about the ways of generating wealth while working for the king and trade and businesses and things like that. He always emphasizes that the purpose of wealth and purpose of business enterprises is for the common good. It is for generating employment. It is for alleviations of the sufferings of the people. And now I take you to earning and charity, which I already talked about. But then the point is that public sectors initially were also created. Public sectors like ONGC, BPCL, HPCL, Indian Oil Corporation, and so many of them. They were created initially with the purpose of generating employment, making the pillars of our economy, and essentially, of course, to both the purposes, to generate employment and support economy. Profit word, I do not think appears in the essence of the business, the public sector enterprises in the beginning when 5-year plan started rolling out. Of course, you can't. As things progressed and economy opened up, several things have been recalibrated and reoriented. But still, the public sectors and even the private sectors to some extent are basically serving the purpose of public good. They still are very, very critical to Indian economy. So during the COVID times, when people are stranded abroad, European Air India, they bring people back. They get so much of goodwill of the people. So many flights have been operated to all the centers of the world, and in bringing back people, Air India is a public sector entity. It has brought back people. Similarly, when there was a lockdown in some parts of the country, Indian Oil Corporation and BPCL and HPCL, they sent their trucks and they supplied essential goods. Even LPG and things like that have been supplied to the remotest of the areas by public enterprises. That essentially is the purpose of a business enterprise, to serve people. Now, the moment you move away from the basic purpose of serving people, people will guess. People will guess that your businesses are not ethically oriented, or they are only driven towards generation of money, and sole purpose is to make profit. The moment customer realizes, and the customer realizes that he or she is not getting his or her money's worth, they will switch over to some other competitive product. So here is a lesson for the business enterprises, not only to be ethically oriented, but also to keep their products and services such that they satisfy the customer's needs at a very competitive price. And part of the profit is given to making the services still better, improving the services, and giving a better product or service to the customer. Now let's turn to living in sync with nature. And a lot of us have already realized that we can live with very little money, just as we are living in these COVID times. We have life. We may not have lifestyle. We are not going to the malls. We are not spending a lot of money and buying branded products or watches and mobile phones and things like that. We are living a very frugal life, and a lot of us have already given money to the good causes, to Prime Minister's Relief Fund. Most of us have already given 1 or 2 days salary besides our voluntary contributions for the good cause, while people are suffering. All those who are fortunate to have enough money in our kitty are giving away. So let us all not only live for ourselves, but also use our money wherever we can, to support life, to support livelihood, to support people in their distress, which is the basic purpose of not only the human beings, but also the business enterprises. And I remember one saying of Lester Brown. Lester Brown says that we have not inherited this earth from our forefathers. Please listen to it again. We have not inherited this earth from our forefathers. We have borrowed it from our children. So while things that we have done to nature and to earth and to environment makes us realize that possibly we have abused our intellect as a human being and not put it to good use, and that's why we have adverse impact on environment. We have adverse impact on the natural life, and many of us, were wondering, and a joke was going around that are we the viruses? Are human beings the viruses? Possibly, nature generates itself very well, very fast. For instance, I'm living in Dehradun, and the temperature would touch around 42 degrees to 44 degrees. But this year, every third or fourth day, we have rain, we have thunderstorm, we have hail, and the temperature cools down because you don't have vehicles plying on the roads. You don't have, construction activities going on. The nature is quickly generating itself. You can see animals on the roads. In our golf course, I'm told that, some wild boars and even the leopards are roaming around. In Mumbai, I'm told, and in some Lokhandwala or some areas, or several parts of the city or several parts of the country, now animals have started roaming around freely, and they realize that they are not scared of the human beings anymore. So that leaves us to believe whether we have really fulfilled our life, the purpose of our life on this earth. What have we done to the environment? What have we done to ourselves? These are the times to ponder. Because, after some time, the situation, God willing, the situation will come back to normal. Economy will start flourishing. We will start going about our businesses. We will move away from the basics of life. We will move away from the basic philosophy of life. We will move away from the basic philosophy that is guiding the businesses. And the businesses must always be ethically oriented. Businesses must always work for the benefit of the people. So let's keep that in focus as economy opens up, as lockdown is easing, as we start going about our businesses. Let's not forget that we have to learn to live in sync with nature. And we have to live with contentment. And on contentment, let me quote a few shlokas again from Panchtantra. Vishnu Sharma says, Santosha mrita triptanam jat sukham shanta chetasam kutastad dhana lubdhanam mitas cheteshch dhavatam. Whence can those who are greedy of wealth and run here and there in search of it get that happiness which is the possession of those who are satisfied with the nectar of contentment and whose minds are tranquil? All the old texts and all the good literature always talks about contentment in life. And all of you, my friends, would have realized that we can live with whatever we have. All of us who are fortunate now to have this laptop, to have this Zoom session, to have connectivity through internet, have money in our pockets, are very, very fortunate. And we are the people who can live for ourselves, and we are the people who can also give to society, not live like birds who just feed themselves. We are much beyond that. So contentment, the moment you realize that contentment is very, very important, you move away to a different dimension altogether. And I remember one doha which says that Chah miti chinta gai, manwa beparwah. The moment you move away from desires, your mind is at rest. Chah miti chinta gai, manwa beparwah, jisko kuch nahi chahiye, wo shahon ke shah. The people who do not desire anything are the king of kings. So if we are contented with whatever we have, of course, have money, have good life, have profit, have money in your pockets, but do not ever forget that we are fortunate and we must share our wealth and our money with those who are less fortunate. There's another one It says, Vancha vichedanam prahu swastham shanta maharshayah Vancha nivartane narthahe pipasevagni sevane. Great sages who are tranquil in mind say that putting an end to desire means the peace of mind. Desire is not removed by enjoyment of objects, as thirst is not by resorting to fire. What he says is that put an end to your greed, put an end to your desire for more and more and more, because you cannot satiate that desire, just like you cannot satiate Agni, fire, by putting more and more coal into it. The more coal and fire, the firewood you put into fire, the more it'll grow. The only way is to be self-contented, to be happy with whatever you have, and that's the way to lead a happy life. And businesses also, at some point of time, have to be contented with the profit that they are generating, not be greedy, because as I remember Mahatma Gandhi said that there is enough for all of our need, but never enough for our greed. So we have to scale down our greed to the need level, and that's the way, I think, to lead a good life. Let me talk a little bit about now friendship and networking, which is I think very, very important for good businesses. And the businesses grow by having good network. All of you would have realized that during these tough times, you are connected with your friends, or you are connected with your business partners, and they are the people who support you. They are the people who give you mental health. And on networking and mental health, networking, especially Vishnu Sharma says, Vikaram yati no chittah vitte yasya kadachana mitram syat sarvakale chakarayen mitra muttamam. One should secure that friend, the most desirable, one whose mind undergoes no change in prosperity, and whoever remains a true friend. So friends are those who remain with you, whether they are COVID times or they are times away from COVID. There is another one on friendship. It says, Apatkale tu samprapte yan mitram mitra bhevatat vriddhikale tu samprapte durjanopi suhit bhavet. He who continues to be a friend when the time of adversity comes is a true friend. When the time of prosperity comes, even a wicked man becomes a friend. So whenever you have money, you will find a lot of friends. But you might have realized during these tough times, and those of you who are facing challenges, that your friends are those who have helped you out during these COVID times, who stood with you, the businesses who stood with you, and the businesses, there is another somewhere a shlok that the good businesses are those which keep on giving money to its employees every month. Because if you do not give money to your employees and you fire them during bad times, then that's really not an ethical enterprise. Of course, there are differences of opinion as to how to run a business enterprise, and there are HR people know that there are how to face the challenge of firing people. It's a very, very tough question, and businesses do grapple with that. But to my mind, good businesses are those who have enough in their coffers to sustain their employees during tough times, because the employees will always give you back. If you earn the dedication of your employees during tough times, I'm sure they will give it back to the business enterprises. I'm aware of several enterprises who were facing problems, and during those times, the management decided to cut down their salaries with their consent, or people voluntarily surrendered their salaries, but they fought back and they put the business back on track. So the good businesses would be those who stand by their employees in times of need, and the employees will stand by those businesses in their times of need. Now, whatever I've said and whatever I've shared with you, a little bit in this short duration of about 30 minutes, I'll end by saying that I hope that you have appreciated some of the wisdom that is residing in the old scriptures and the old texts. I'll end by saying that vachastatra pravoktavyam yatroktam labhate phalam sthai bhavati chatyantam ragah shukla pate tatha. We should we should speak whenever there are only good listeners. So if, ladies and gentlemen, you are good listener, I think if it has left any lesson in your mind, then my session is fruitful, because Vishnu Sharma says that you should speak only when you are well received, your words are well received. Otherwise, if you put a color on a dark colored cloth, it will not show. But if you put it on a white cloth, any color on a white cloth will show. So I hope my words are the colors which have fallen on a white cloth of your wisdom, and they have left some imprint in your minds. I think I'll end my session now, and I'll pass on to Gaurav. And if there are any questions, I'd like to take it on.
Thank you so much, Manoj sir. It has been inspiring and very insightful. At least for me, I've learned a lot today. And I also hope that the viewers have also had, a tremendously inspiring session. We have several questions, in fact, that have come in from our listeners. Let me start with the first one. This comes from Ravi Bhatia, who says that, people have forgotten as to why PSUs were formed. Could you share your thoughts on this, Manoj sir?
Of course. See, since I belong to public sector, I am an admirer of public sector. And I also got, a lot of offers along my career to join private sector, but I decided to stay on. When the economy was doing well, there was lure of money and, moving to better lifestyle and things like that. I decided to stay on because I think public sectors are doing a great job for the economy. There will be ups and downs in economy, but during the downturn, you'll realize that people in public sectors are doing a great job. All the government hospitals now, which are, the government sector, all the public sectors, whether I quoted you an example of Air India, which have lifted so many people, railways are doing a great job, although not a public sector. Railways is a pure government sector. But public sector like BPCL supplying LPG to remotest of the areas, electricity department supplying electricity to the last village, public sector banks going to the remotest of the villages where no private sector bank will go because it does not make business sense to go to a village and make money there. It will be a public sector bank which will go to a remote area. Public sectors have been doing a great job, sometimes even at the cost of their bottom line as well. But then they have been created to serve the economy. And now by a mandate in the Companies Act, we have to devote 2% of our profit to CSR activities. And these CSR activities have left an indelible mark in India's, India's canvas as such, by building toilets and taking electricity to remotest of the corners, creating water ATMs. And my organization, for that matter, has left a great imprint on the people's mind. Even now, during these tough times, my people are working in offshore locations, away from home for 50 days, right in the middle of the ocean. People in BPCL and other sectors are working at the cost, at the risk of their lives. So I'm an admirer of the public sector, and I think they have done a great job. And all those who are my colleagues in the public sectors must be very, very satisfied that we stand by the Indian citizens. I hope I've been able to reply to your question.
Sure. Thank you so much, Manoj sir. There's another question, which is actually a leading question to the first one and what you just said. And I'm reading it out. The oil and gas sector has played a big role in shaping the Indian growth story. Now, in the new world, renewables are likely to slowly replace conventional fuels. So what impact will this transition have on the oil and gas sector, and how are they changing?
Well, I had read a book several years back, I think 30 years back, by Alvin Toffler. It was called The Third Wave. Alvin Toffler said that the future, and I read it in 1982, Alvin Toffler said that the future generations will be governed by three things: sun, shrimps, and chips. Sun for energy, shrimps for food, and chips for computing and getting connected. And a couple of those things have already come to us, especially chips. So you and I are already operating on chips on internet.
Right.
We have not still moved to shrimps because we still are going on land. And sun. Now, of course, alternative sources of energy are the way forward, and a lot of effort and research is going in that direction. But to my mind, oil and gas still will continue to rule our lives for at least some time to come. We have reserves. The business, you see, the business has to run on a model. And if you have read Jeremy Rifkin on Internet of Things, it's a long discussion, but anyway, I'll cut it short. And Jeremy Rifkin says that the businesses have to run on certain basic parameters. There has to be grid of communication, there has to be a grid of transportation, and there has to be a supply of energy. So today we are in hydrocarbon regime, which is transported. We are in internet regime, but gradually, and if you have read his book, Third Industrial Revolution, in Germany, people have experimented. They have put solar panels on the top of their buildings, and the cost of that electricity with the solar energy is tending towards zero. So to my mind, of course, alternative sources of energy are a way forward. They will be cleaner, of course. But to my mind, I'm an HR man, but working in the oil sector, to my mind, oil and gas and coal and the current energy basket will definitely continue for some time, although it's becoming more and more refined. We are leaving less and less carbon footprint in atmosphere because of the processes that have been refined.
Fair enough. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Another question that comes in is, with COVID-19, will it lead to companies hiring remote employees spread across the world? What lessons can be drawn from history for the future?
See, if you go by history, and some historian has said, I'm primarily a history student, and some historian has said that if you don't learn from the past or your mistakes, you will be condemned to repeat it. Now, history, if you take a look at about, say, 100 years, in 1918, there was a pandemic, Spanish flu, and simultaneously there was a Great Depression, but economy came back. You must read a book by John Steinbeck called Grapes of Wrath, which talks about the Great Depression. And the lessons of history are that whenever there is a downturn, the human beings are die-hard optimists. They will always fight back. They will bring economy back on track. Everything will become, back on track. Economy will boom. Your markets will come back. We will win. We will come out of this pandemic sooner or later. We will develop vaccines. We will develop immunity. We indeed have a fighting spirit. We will lose a couple of people, sadly, but we will come back. I'm an optimist. So we will come back with that. We will, of course, put the economy also back on track. We will have better and better life because the human progress is towards betterment of human life. But my only request to you has been that when you move to a greener pasture, when you have better life, do not miss the lessons of these times. We are facing the toughest challenges of this generation, but then we are also facing the greatest opportunity that has been given to us by realizing firsthand as to what basically we need to do to stay afloat. And I'm very, very confident that the economy will come back on track.
Thank you, sir.
Anyway, so you talked about businesses. Yes, right. Worldwide, I think it may take some time, but the businesses will come back. With that, the economy will also bloom. We might miss some of the friends, but then that has happened in the past. We will lose lesser numbers, not like the early times, because we have great scientists, we have great medicine experts, we have great labs, we have great minds working better and better. But I'm quite optimistic that we are headed towards a better future. But please keep in mind the lessons you have learned during this time.
Sure. Sir, we have another question from Gautami VK. And the question is, why?
I'll be happy if you can tell me where these ladies or gentlemen are from. I mean, which organization they are, what level they are working on, so that I can address their queries in an appropriate manner.
Sure. So we'll request our viewers to put in their company name and, the place that they are based at,
right.
over and above their names. For now, I only have the name for Gautami. So Gautami VK is asking, why do you think we haven't been able to learn lessons from ancient scriptures like Mahabharata, etc., but value case studies which come from Harvard or Stanford or any other such, top tier global B school or university? Any thoughts or suggestions that you may have on this?
If you ask me frankly, then my take on many of the, in quote, Ivy League colleges is that, you are aware that they are charging a lot of money. I don't know why they are charging so much money. Because our scriptures say that in ancient times, education was almost free and it was passed on by word of mouth. So the fundamental question is, and again I take you back to the basics, that at what price should you keep this MBA degree? Is a great question for all the Ivy League colleges or all the management institutions. People have to raise loans, they have to pay back to the colleges, then they are caught in a loan trap, then they have to maintain that lifestyle. And these are the times when you realize that possibly the fundamentals of life remain the same. So coming to your query about lessons from Harvard or Wharton or Stanford or any of the colleges or the case studies, you will realize that time and again we come back to the same basics of life. And the fundamental principles that govern life are age old. They are from the ancient times. So the lessons about friendship, the lessons about leading ethical businesses, the lessons about maintaining equilibrium, about maintaining eco-friendly environment are the same. So you keep on doing the research, but you will come back to the same basic principles of life, whether it is by any of the educational institutions, that there are certain fundamentals of life which are very close to your heart. You look inwards, you will understand. You don't have to read any of the papers. You can only refine your thoughts a little bit further, but the fundamental principles of life remain the same. And that's the age-old wisdom, whether in India, in Europe, in US, in Australia, in New Zealand. The basic principles of human life and the basic good values governing human life, I think, remain fundamentally the same.
Thank you, sir. We have another question from Pradeep Singh from the Future Group based in Mumbai. And his question is, what is your take on CSR of private firms in the current COVID-19 pandemic? Are we not doing as it should be done?
Can you repeat that? I did not hear it properly. What is my take on?
Sure. So this question is from Pradeep Singh from the Future Group based in Mumbai. His question is, what is your take on the CSR activity of private firms in the current pandemic? Are we not doing as it should be?
No, I think all of us are doing a great job, even the private sector. I do not intend to be biased, because see, when it comes to making PPE kits or masks or basic products which are being used in COVID times, a lot of it is coming back from private enterprises. And the private enterprises are also doing a great job. So my take is that, of course, it is mandated in the Companies Act that 2% of your profit, whether it is a public sector or private sector, will go towards CSR activities. So you are mandated to do it. But then private sector as such and the employees working in the private sector, Pradeep, are essentially the same human beings from the same Indian milieu. They are touched by the same values. They feel the same. So we are all Indian citizens. We feel the same pain. We feel the same pressure. And all of us are, I think, doing a great job in these times, whether it is a public sector or private sector. I spoke of public sector primarily because I belong to that segment, and my exposure in life has been more in that segment. So, I can talk with a little bit more authority about my sector rather than about private sector, although I have a lot of friends in private sector, and as they tell me, all of them are doing equally great job. But then your profit, your fundamentals, you have to keep visiting and revisiting what is the basic of your business enterprise. How much should you keep for yourself? You can go beyond the mandated 2% of your profit in CSR activities. It is the bare minimum that the government has prescribed in the Companies Act. You can always exceed it. You can rope in your people to involve in CSR activities. You can do a bit more. You can do a lot more.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Now, there are two questions which are very similar, and I'm going to read them both out to you. The first question is from Anand Kuchelan, which is, I understand the social aspects behind public sector undertakings. Then why is the run of disinvestment and privatization by the government? Anand works for Centrum Financials. Now, there is a second question, which is a similar question by Sharad Agarwal, and he's from BPCL. And his question is, what is the main reason for government keen on selling PSUs? Example, BPCL, Air India, even if public sector enterprises are the only sectors which helped during the difficult times, which is, the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, this is a tricky question for me because I would not like to comment on the policies of the government. The policies of the government are decided at the highest level with a lot of brains and minds going into it. Ultimately, I believe that whatever the government decides is for the benefit of its people. Disinvestment or dilution of equity or selling government stake and things like that is done with a lot of deliberation at different levels in the government of India. The policies are in the public domain, and my friends in BPCL or the other friend are aware. So they can go to the public domain and read about it. It's not right for me to comment on the policies of the government at this point of time. I would have my premises today has been the lessons from the past. And if I can share some wisdom with you, that was my mandate in today's session.
Thank you so much, sir. There is another question, and maybe this is a little more closer to your current role. What is the role of HR in present and current times of the COVID-19 pandemic? How do you think that the HR should function? What are the attributes that they should bring in? And this question is from Ghanshyam Nandman.
Hello, Ghanshyam. You have asked me a question which is very close to my heart. And I do believe that, just by having some educational qualification in HR does not make you an HR professional as such. Just as you go to a painting college or you go to some classical music college or, some of these fine arts colleges does not really make you an artist. It comes from heart. And I think a great HR person is one who feels for the people, who stands by the people. And I think a lot of it is about the touch and feel factor. It's for the other person to say that here is an HR person of some salt, of some substance. During these times, I think a great HR person would be one who will be constantly in touch with his or her people, the workforce, is possessed of some of the qualities that I mentioned, like tranquility, like contentment, like developing friendships, sharing the pain of people, talking to them, working on issues about their mental health. For instance, in ONGC, we have created a desk which is called OK. So we are constantly receiving queries from our people and trying to address. It's a 24-hour help desk. We constantly get telephone calls or on email and things like that. We are constantly counseling them, telling them how we are going to operate, how we are working for their benefit. So a great HR institution and a great HR person is one who is constantly in touch with his or her people. Now, in ONGC, my HR department is headed by a lady, Dr. Alka Mittal. And I think a lot of success about HR is when it is, when you have a different touch, the touch of compassion, the touch of feeling for others. And then, we are constantly in touch with our people. So I think a great HR person during tough times is one who forgets about his or her own pain or own, comfort level and is constantly in touch with people. So you need to be contented yourselves first before you reach out to somebody else. So develop that touch and feel factor for your people. Rise above the basic human failings. Get connected with your people, and when the times get better, they will respect you much more.
Thank you, sir. We have another question, and this is from Satya Sudha. What's your suggestion with regard to value-based education in the current phase due to the COVID-19 pandemic?
My take is that a lot of education should be value-based. Because ultimately, if it is based on basically, getting you a job, then all your energies are diverted towards having an education which gives you some employment, which is also a practical part of it. You do need employment. You do need some kind of skill to work to generate some money for yourself. But that's only part of it. A lot of it has to do with basic education, and a basic education will always have a good mix of values built into it. So whenever you are doing a job, you are basically governed by the thought of giving back to society, the thought of sharing with people, the thought of rising above your own personal grievances and challenges first, and looking at the problems of others as well. So I put a great score by value-based education myself. And today, whatever I talked about dealt with a lot of good values, essentials of our existence, which should also be essentials of business enterprise. And as I quoted from the Japanese gentleman's shlok, "Natwaham kamaye rajyam na swargam na punarbhavam, kamaye dukkha taptanam praninam arthanashanam." So that's basically a value that I would like to have my business enterprise devoted to the welfare of the people. That's
Sure.
a value.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Another question is, how is the oil and gas sector operating remotely in the current crisis?
Operating currently means?
Operating currently, in the situations of lockdown.
Oh,
how is the...
it's a very challenging thing for the oil sector. Because we have to keep our operations going. Our people, as I said, are working under very, very tough conditions. We call them energy soldiers, or we call them energy sevaks. They are like soldiers. Many of them are away in remote areas, right in the middle of the ocean, to Rajasthan desert, to the jungles in Assam, very, very remote areas, and they are trying to secure energy for you, for the Indian citizens. Because the cost of crude keeps fluctuating. Sometimes it goes very high, sometimes it comes down. So we have to keep on working for the energy security of the country. We are the energy sector, and the public sector as such, or the oil sector as such, of course, is facing a lot of problems. But then we are, as I said, we are energy soldiers. We are energy savers. We are committed to serve the nation, in spite of our, even at the cost of our own comfort, cost of our own family, which constantly keeps on worrying about us. We are going to work, even when many of the people are securely in their homes, working from home. Most of us are going to offices. Most of us are working in remote areas. Most of us are operating equipments and trying to keep the wheels of economy running. So that's the current scenario.
Thank you, sir. We are very close to the hour, so we'll take last two questions. One of the question is, how do you, sir, see the learner behavior changing working remotely, especially, now that the COVID situation will be here for some time?
All right. See, right now I'm in ONGC Academy, and we train more than 8,000 to 10,000 people every year. People go to IIMs, they go to best of the institutions. We have best of the faculty. ONGC faculty itself is, the top notch. But after the lockdown, we faced a challenge, and we had never worked on, mass scale open source learning as such. So we quickly rolled out programs. We trained our trainers first as to how to hold Zoom sessions or WebEx Cisco platform. So there are positive sides, there are negative sides as well. For instance, right now, only I'm speaking and you are listening to me. So that's the flip side of it, because I can't interact, I can't see you. And I think in all the learning, body language plays a great role. So whereas you can read my body language, I can't see any one of you except Gaurav. So we have to learn to operate on this platform as well. Sometimes it poses challenges. Sometimes, like for instance, you were asking me questions. There could be a two-way dialogue, because there can be a subsequent questions to after I answer your query, which is lacking here in this platform. But well, we have to adjust. We have to learn to live with a new scenario. And the faster we change, and our people are changing, our faculty is changing, we are changing, I am changing, all of us are changing. We have learned to operate on this platform. We will change, we'll do better and better. And we'll learn also how to calibrate this kind of a learning to our greater advantage.
Thank you, sir. So survival of the most adaptive.
Yes.
Thank you. So the last question that we are taking is, any suggestions from you, sir, on mythology books which are relevant even today, specifically for business?
Well, if you go to the basic philosophy, and without any religion, I mean religious bias or anything, for those who want to read, I think Gita is a great text. And again, all the good scriptures talk about the basic principles. And Gita says, lays emphasis on the same. Sukh dukh samay kritva labha labhau jaya jayo. Tasmat utthaya kaunteya yuddhaya kritanishaya. Sukh dukh samay kritva. Sukh और दुख को समान समझ के सुख दुख समय कृत्वा लाभा लाभौ जया जयो. Gain or loss, sukh and dukh, you should be equanimous. You should not, not think too much about it. So Gita is a good text for philosophy. Vishnu, this Panchtantra is a good text. For those who want to read about business, might read, the Sun Tzu, Chinese, or Confucius for that matter. Or I'm a great fan of Marcus Aurelius as well. I think he has great lessons, and he lived, I think, more than 2,000 years back. So irrespective of any religious text, you can go to the older text, whether it's a Greek, it's Latin, it's Chinese, it's from Europe. You can start, based on your own interest, you can start reading. But if you read the original text, all the better. Marcus Aurelius makes for a great reading. Sun Tzu, Confucius, Gita, and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much, sir.
But do read the contemporary people. Do read Alvin Toffler and Jeremy Rifkin. They are great leaders. I mean, my personal choices.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Manoj, sir, for this session. We're truly humbled with the insight that you've shared with us, with the wisdom that you've shared with all of us today. I hope a lot of people have taken lessons from this wisdom, and they'll apply it to their lives, not just their personal, but their professional lives. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We are 4 minutes over our scheduled hour. So we are going to end here. Thank you again. And to our viewers, please stay tuned for the next live webinar session. Thank you so much, Manoj, sir.
Thank you, Gaurav, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me time and your attention. Thank you. Stay safe and have a good life ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.